Hey everyone, this is the LEGO Star Wars Resistance Y-Wing Starfighter. In this video, I'm going to take you on a quick look at all of the major important stuff, including the figures and droids here. Then I'll come back and do a bit of a deeper dive, looking at some specific details, giving my personal thoughts and critique. I'll also do a comparison to another recent Y-Wing model from LEGO and try to answer some of your viewer questions from the preview. The ship is over 17 inches long, or about 44 centimeters. And the width is a bit under 8 inches or 20 centimeters. In universe, this is a new craft to us. It's not the same one that we saw in the original trilogy and Rogue One, but it is very much based on and inspired by that. It's actually one that, for a change, was designed to have no cowling around it right from the start, as opposed to the original trilogy Y-Wing that most Star Wars fans are familiar with, which was supposed to be, in universe, a derivation of the one that we saw in Clone Wars, which was fully cowled up and very sleek from front to back. This LEGO model features the same cockpit canopy mold that they've been using since the beginning of LEGO Star Wars, just has a print across the top of it. This is supposed to be as white as the fuselage, so that is not as opaque as it ought to be. This holds one single figure in there, and there is just a printed console at the front and no studs to hold the figure in place, which is actually a good thing because it means it'll be easy to get the figure out without the legs being stuck behind. Aft of the cockpit is the turret, and this is small and it's able to move around a bit. I believe that in universe this is not supposed to be able to move around as much as the original trilogy version ones. It's mostly intended to be for picking off TIE fighters that are trying to attack this thing from behind. So I think it mostly just is supposed to have a nice arc at the back, but this one in LEGO form is able to shoot forward a little bit, just at a high azimuth there, but it looks pretty good. It's nice and compact and everything. Then you've got your spot for your astromech droid behind there. We'll take a closer look at this new teal droid, but has to sit sideways down in there in order to fit within the space. But you just rotate the head to face whatever direction you want so that you see, its face either towards you or forward. Once again, there's a pretty significant amount of greebling used back here, which this time around doesn't have a lot of difference in color. You do have a little bit of the dark gray in there, but it's mostly just light gray, so this is intended to look fairly clean, I would say, and not yet battle damaged or battle worn. So this is a relatively recent manufacturer you would just expect in universe. This is a large sticker on a half-cylinder piece right here, and the engines have a new design to them that is pretty sleek, but also a little bit more bulky in a way, especially with these vanes at the back, than what we've had before, and that is as a result of a different design in universe again. So this is not just something that LEGO itself has come up with. Now this has a number of ways to physically shoot things off or to deliver ordnance. This is a bomb bay or torpedo bay. You put items down in there and then you rotate this knob and the items fall out. The items are like so, and that just loads in from the top, and this is the same mechanism that they have used in the past. You can just fit 3 in there. Basically, it's a magazine. If you rotate it just right, then it'll hold them in. Otherwise, stuff will start to fall out one at a time. And then these are spring-loaded shooter projectiles, which you can see here on the underside. You got one right there and one right there, so you can actually shoot those off. These are your landing skids, which are able to angle back. You have 2 for the center at the back and 1 at the front. Also folds up. Doesn't take up too much space. The whole thing doesn't look too terrible from the underside. It doesn't use a lot of weird colors or anything. So if you do have this on display at a kind of high level, maybe above you at the top of a bookcase or something, it's not going to look terrible. Do watch out for these guys. They do like to fall out. You can see how open the bottom of the bomb or torpedo magazine is there. And that's about all there is to see on this. I'll just let you get a better view of it from distance, from some different angles. I'll go more into kind of the swishability, playability, and the build details that I like or don't like in the second part of the video. But for now, let's go ahead and move on to the figures and take a closer look at all of those. This is a new character called Zori Bliss, and we don't know for certain. There's no official information out as of the time of the recording of this video, just as to who this is and if it's supposed to be an important character or not. That is a dual molded helmet with the pearl gold color and black as separate types of plastic. No actual printing on that helmet and no face whatsoever underneath. They're not spoiling anything or even trying to suggest anything there. So what you see on the outside is what you get. It's got the old flintlock style pistols, which are supposed to represent something different in universe that, is a sci-fi pistol, but a lot of the stuff from Star Wars is based on very old firearms anyway. So not a bad substitution, I'd say, and a pretty good looking figure overall. Here's the latest version of Poe Dameron. I'm going to call him the Shemagh version of Poe Dameron because of the cloth around the neck. He also has his man purse there, or you can call it a messenger bag if you want. I don't know if there are going to be any direct connections between this version of this character and Zori Bliss. Just because LEGO puts two figures in the same set doesn't mean they are related or connected in any way. And let's take a look at that alternate face and also how it gets framed up by the hair. This is a First Order Snow Trooper. I generally feel like LEGO does a pretty good job on its helmeted trooper figures, and sometimes the non-helmeted ones as well, but no exception here as far as I'm concerned. A good looking mold. It's a fairly simple face on these. That's just how they're designed in universe, fairly simple and sleek. Pretty good print on the front and underneath, of course. Angry Clone, as always, and there is some print on the back of the torso. The Astromech droid is officially Astromech droid. It literally says on the box for this set that this is Astromech droid. They don't even have an official designation for it. I'm sure that there will be a connection made to a specific bot in universe. That always happens. There are actually people out there who specialize specifically in identifying Astromech droids. It's a whole thing unto itself. But I'm happy with this just being a teal-colored Astromech droid. It stands out. That color really pops. It's a color that hasn't been used much in LEGO's recent history because they just recently resurrected it in their color palette. And I think it looks really cool. Still has that classic style, and it's interesting, and it's collectible. Last up, this is the new little droid DO, which is just a single piece of white plastic. It has a stud on the back of the head, which is hollow, so you can attach this to things in different ways if you want. Maybe someday they'll use this as just an unprinted piece. That could be an interesting part to use for custom builds and interesting textures. But as it is, again, it's just one single piece of plastic. I think it's a pretty decent representation of this character in such a small LEGO scale. Here are the leftover or extra pieces from the set. Not too many of them. This is one intentional inclusion with just an additional bolt for the spring-loaded shooters on the ship. So that's it for the quick review segment of the video. Let's take a look at the new Y-Wing versus the most recent one that we've gotten in a similar scale. This was done for Rogue One, but it is absolutely right from the original trilogy. It's supposed to be same thing, just from one of the squadrons that is actually used in the assault on the first Death Star and everything. So obviously a lot of similarities, but also quite a few differences. Again, this is intended to be a different model in universe, so the cannons, the turrets are not supposed to be the same. There is a slight difference in the shape of the cockpit in universe, but the biggest, most significant differences here to me are, well, when I picked this one up after having spent some time with this, I just felt like the front end of this suddenly felt really boxy and really studdy to me compared to before. I thought when I originally built this that this was awesome for its scale, and maybe that they were trying to get a little bit too smooth at the front and this didn't work out. I like the sides, but now this feels really, really boxy and kind of classic and old. All this stuff back here still looks great to me, and this is intended to be something that was repurposed as in its time in universe, and so has different colors back there, a little bit of wear, a little bit of patina and everything. But that front end looks so much more sleek on this, with the exception of this odd step. Now the real thing does have, from the reference materials that we've seen so far that have been made available, the real thing does have a step in the side flanges of the cockpit section of the fuselage, but the step is in a different place. I think it's supposed to be back here more. It would be ideal to have a printed side of the cockpit here to really add a lot of realism and accuracy to this Lego model. They don't have that, but you can clearly see from the pictures that the step down should be more back here. And also the shape right here for the red is not correct based on the exact one that is pictured in one of the books so far. But I feel like the Lego designer probably put this in here for the sake of its shape, and then just went back and forth on whether to put a sticker on that or to go with white, have it be white, put a sticker on it, have it be red, put a sticker on it with more white, or to just leave it like this and liked the look of this. I don't think it's supposed to be 100% accurate. I think it's supposed to be a compromise for Lego scale. And to me, it doesn't look that great. This is bothersome to me. All this is nice. All this is nice with the stacked up wedge plates, and this front end is smooth. Very smooth. Very, very, very smooth. I want to see more of that in the future. I like studded surfaces in Lego. I'm not afraid of studded surfaces, but I'm beginning to like smooth surfaces more. This is a nice example here. Another thing that I don't like here is all of this, how smooth this is. So there's kind of a counter to that. This is too smooth to me, and also too flat. I feel like that could have been a little bit sharper, didn't need to have as much of the rounding in there. I feel like this was done more correctly with all the sharp bits and just the lines, the hoses and pipes and everything, and the combination of smoothed off surfaces, studded surfaces, and different pieces used for the sake of greebling. I feel like this is more successful, just in my personal opinion. I believe that this model actually should have had longer extensions with the vanes at the back behind the engines. I think this should have been longer, whereas the new one should be shorter. This feels like it has the overall proportions more like the original trilogy version should have, with the longer extensions back here. I think that it actually should be shorter for this version, which also should have a much shorter neck by comparison. You can see the difference here. Like if you go from right there to that, it's significantly greater relative to the length of the ship than it is here. And that is correct. That is, from what we've seen, that is how things should be done. I got at least one viewer question. Sorry, I didn't write down any names, but I clearly recall it. It wasn't that long ago that it was posted. Somebody asking if you didn't get the opportunity to get one of these or any other original trilogy or Rogue One style Y-Wing, could you use this as a reasonable stand-in for one? And I think absolutely yes. I mean, if you're a stickler for absolute accuracy and you need specific little details and small things will bug you, then nothing will substitute for something that is designed to be correct in the first place. But I think this is so close that if you're not trying to be exact with the colors and precise proportions, greebling, I don't think this is even quite right. The more I look at it, I don't think it's quite right itself. This could even be better proportioned for an original trilogy one. So yes, absolutely, this would make a good stand-in. And as for playability, people have been asking me more and more lately about playability. They're both the same. You want to grab them from the back, and they're plenty sturdy. They have a nice sturdy center core. This has very little twist. That's very durable the way that it's put together. It was the same thing here. I guess there's maybe a little bit more twist. Interestingly, I didn't expect that. Yeah, it just feels like there is a tiny bit more in there, but it's not like this is going to fall apart. None of these small pieces here fall off on the previous one. Definitely none of them fall off easily on the new one. Surely you can be rough and make things fall off, but just for general use, I'm really not worried about this at all. And it feels very flyable. It's very amenable to just being grabbed like this, hand out and just flown. It feels very smooth and natural to me, to get kind of natural movements out of it. And then it has really easy access to all the stuff that you want to shoot off or drop. So the bomb drop or torpedo drop right here, you can operate with a single thumb, the same hand. You only need one hand. You can also operate the spring-loaded shooters right from here. So, that's actually pretty convenient. You can't do this. You need this with a separate hand, but I think that's fine. I think this was designed pretty well for the sake of play. And I'm going to say it again. The fact that there are no studs in the cockpit is great, because there's nothing more annoying to me than putting a figure in a place where a figure is supposed to be and then not being able to get it out, because the studs down there on some older models would hold everything into place, and oftentimes you'd pull off and you'd get just a head, or you'd get a head and a torso, and then the legs would be stuck in there and be a pain to get them off. I do want to mention something that I very much dislike about the build of this. It bothered me, maybe more than it should have. The distance. So this is not a design that they've used previously. Previously they've used the pure Technic connectors, and this has a half pin, and then they put an Exoforce hand in there to connect to the octagonal bar piece. You see there's the bar piece in black. It goes all the way around. There are the little hands that hold on to that. I think I can pull this off safely. Nope. I'm just going to pull it out a little bit so you can see a little bit in there what I'm talking about. They've done a similar thing on the new one, but rather than using these Technic connectors, they're using these hinge parts, round hinge parts. And the distance is not the same from here to here on the pieces that are being connected to and the pieces that are being connected from. Whichever way you look at that, the distance from here to here is greater than the distance between these two holes right here. And as a result, the whole thing is stressed, and there are 8 of those on this craft. And you can see there's a little bit of bending involved in there, a little bit of pre-bending. It's actually preloading of tension, and it's not natural. I actually do worry for a rare situation. I actually do worry that these parts could get worn over time and become, just lose a little bit of their strength, maybe have some premature failures of the plastic in the future. Not terribly worried about it. It's definitely not something to be concerned about in the near term, but it's just something that Lego really tries not to do usually. And I've tried different distances of how far out to place this, and trying to get it farther in, farther out like that. And no matter what I do, there's still tension in there. It's still trying to pull itself apart and or push itself. And it's really pulling itself apart. And I don't like that. It did not feel good. If anybody else puts this together, let me know if you encounter that same thing. I had the exact same problem on both sides, and I put both sides together the same way, the way that they told me to in the instructions, and I don't like that. Now, in my recent preview videos, I've seen an increasing number of questions about the capes on the new wave of Star Wars figures. And, I hadn't really realized a trend towards the older style of capes. They never stopped using the older style. They just had been using the cloth style that's more flexible more and more frequently. But it does feel like there's a trend back towards these older ones. I can't say I mind it too much, so long as they don't put them on characters that need to sit down in confined spaces, like in craft, where you would have to crinkle up the cape or have to take it off. That's what I dislike the most about these older capes, is that they do get crinkled up, and then you have to iron them to get them to look nice and smooth again, whereas the newer style of cloth ones are pretty free-flowing and don't get creases and such, but do have an extra gap or an extra bit of thickness that they apply underneath the neck that some people don't like. It's not the best looking thing. This is more clean under there, but I personally like the newer style better for most situations. I like the ability to flip it up or to have it in action, just kind of pull it up and have a clear brick behind there or something to have it look like the figure is in motion. Can't really do that. This is almost like paper. But yeah, it does seem like they have, they haven't used the new style or the cloth style of cape in any of the new sets, but we'll see what they do for the holiday waves. That is an interesting thing to bring up, and now I'm looking for that. I had not been looking for that, or had not been noticing it. I just thought it was coincidence, but have they stopped using the new cloth style? I don't know. A viewer named Do Not Watch, that's their username, asked me what is on both the A-Wing and this, what is the first thing, or what are the first two things that struck me as different about the new model here. And I definitely have to say right there, that just stuck out to me because, it sticks out. It doesn't match the lines that they have here. And also then you look at it a little bit more closely and the shape is a little bit awkward. But then I notice all this smooth stuff right here. But no, definitely that's the very first thing that I noticed. And then the very second thing that I noticed here from a distance was all of this flat yet rounded, just the edge detail that they've got on here with the tiles, which looks odd to me. It does look very 1970s sci-fi, so it kind of fits in that way, I think, in the Star Wars universe. And I do think this is based on an old bit of concept art, a little bit more closely than the original trilogy ones are. But yeah, those are the two things that stood out. This stands out in a bad way. This I'm neutral on, but I would rather it not be as wide and smooth as it actually is. And then Brick Soldier 123 asked, is the teal astromech droid actually Palpatine? Oh, I hate you so much right now because you just spoiled the entire Skywalker saga. You just basically solved it. You answered the whole thing. Yes, this is Palpatine, and in fact, all droids are Palpatine. That's how everything that we've seen in the Skywalker saga has been mechanized, how all of it has worked out just perfectly, exactly as he has foreseen it, because he is everywhere, because he is all droids. And that's why we see the red-eyed C-3PO in the trailer, because it's Palpatine. All droids are Palpatine. This teal astromech droid is Palpatine. You are correct, sir. You have won Star Wars. For the size of this set, I think that $70 US is unreasonable. It's too much to ask for. It just doesn't have enough volume of stuff there. It's pretty nice for what it is, but not for that price. But here's the kicker. On release day, on Big Triple Force Friday, this was already on sale at major retailers. Target had it for $56. That's where I got it. It was $55.99, I think it was. About $56 US. Anyway, a very good price. I'm very happy with that price. I've heard that Walmarts have had them on sale. I also saw that Amazon had this and at least a couple other of the sets on sale on release date, which is showing you how, as I've mentioned previously, LEGO is pricing its sets to be discounted. That's just something they have to do. A lot of people don't understand it. It doesn't make sense, but it's something they have to do to be kind to retailers, to other sellers. Since LEGO is both a manufacturer and a direct seller, they are a retailer of their own products. That creates a conflict of interest and creates competition between them and the retailers that they need very much. So they're increasing, or they have increased suggested retail prices, which gives room for immediate discounts by retailers who are not LEGO. And I don't mind that. It's confusing, but definitely makes it less valuable to actually go to a physical LEGO store or to buy from LEGO Direct online. You get the VIP points, but you have to pay full suggested retail price, at least until things reach a point of clearance, late in their life. So I think that the actual normal store price for this is very reasonable. Very happy with that. But the suggested retail price is definitely inflated beyond a reasonable point. And that's about all I have to say about this set. Oh, one last thing. I mentioned it already, but that is not good. Not happy with that. I'm looking at you. White. See how that's white? Yeah, it's not white on the actual thing. It's off-white. It almost looks blue. It's supposed to match, and it doesn't. LEGO, I know you're watching this. I know a bunch of you are watching this. A lot of LEGO employees watch this. maybe even somebody who works in the box graphics department, packaging graphics. You need to stop that, because I know that's what you're told to do, but tell your manager to look at all of my videos and to listen to all of your fans who say that this is not okay, to show this matching up and then to deliver something that doesn't match. Just show us on the box what the thing actually looks like. This is a photograph. It's not a CG. I mean, yeah, it's doctored quite a bit, which is fine. It mostly looks like the real product, but that does not. And that's a consistent thing that's done on purpose, and it's not okay because it's deceptive, and Lego fans in general dislike that quite a lot. And the more the colors are supposed to match between adjacent items, the more just miserable it is. You know, if this was gray back here and this was supposed to be white, well, it's just a lighter gray. You know, it's supposed to be a different color than what was back here, and it is. That's okay. But this is supposed to match this, and it doesn't, so it shouldn't here on the box either. That's technically false advertising. I know it's kind of not a big deal. It's not a prisonable offense or anything, but I don't like it. I'm not going to stop talking about it so long as it occurs and it is done on purpose. If you want to see how this set went together, check out my build videos. You can see either the real-time pure build or the sped up speed build. They're on separate channels. I will link to both right now. Talk to you again soon. Thanks for watching, and thanks for your feedback.